This video is brought to you by Squarespace. Whether you're starting a blog, a store, or need marketing tools, Squarespace is the all-in-one platform to build a beautiful online presence and run your business. You thought it couldn't get worse. You thought it couldn't get more chaotic. You thought it could only go up from here, which is true still. That can still happen. You thought this could be a turning point or a turning of the page at United, and it still could be, but there's just so much work to be done, isn't there? After losing to Brighton at home on the opening day of the season, Erik Ten Hag said, quote, "It is a hell of a job." Was he talking about managing United or supporting them in recent years? Now that's a good question. I'm sorry, I do feel for United supporters, man, on a human level. I have many friends that support them. I support Benfica, so whether they succeed or not doesn't really matter to me as much as it would to rival supporters in England. But again, on a human level, I feel for what United supporters are going through. I know what it's like to have an owner that you don't see eye to eye with, or a president in our case. Because all of a sudden, and feel free to call this revisionist history, but quotes from people who were formerly at the club seem to be finally hitting home. Guys who were seen as either bitter or out of their depth with what they said in the past are suddenly seeing their words from the past being pasted all over the internet again. Such as Mourinho, when he said, quote, "One of the best jobs of my career was to finish second with Man United in the Premier League. I keep saying this because people don't know what is going on behind the scenes." Be honest, raise your hand if you sneered when you first heard Mourinho say that. I know I did. And this in isolation isn't necessarily a massive dub or anything. It isn't a GG no re on its own. But when you couple it with what Ralf Rangnick said, You probably saw this Rangnick video recently as it has gone viral once again, and I'll get clapped by a copyright claim if I show it, but basically back in April, Rangnick was saying that it's not about the manager's quality at the club, it's about changing all of the other things. He went on to say that you can change a few players, the cosmetic things at a club, but, quote, "In medicine, you would see this as an operation at the open heart. So there are more things to be changed than some little things here and some minor things there. And this is the good thing. If this happens, if everybody has realized that this has to happen, and if people want to work together, then it makes sense. And then I still believe that it doesn't need to take 2 or 3 years to change those things." That speaks to people who are making decisions behind the scenes, the higher ups, this open heart surgery. And that's what Mourinho was referring to as well. Call it confirmation bias if you like, but two brilliant football brains alluding to the same thing, maybe we should listen. And when you think about it, what team has recently made a massive shift in their approach and club culture? Who has made open heart surgery to a certain extent, to use Rangnick's terms? PSG. Yes, Manchester United is now a club that could learn from PSG. You had Nasser speaking about how they don't want bling bling anymore, but they made two brilliant moves, bringing in Galtier for one, but that wouldn't have significant change without ousting Leonardo and replacing him with Campos, Luis Campos. Boom, immediately Campos changed PSG's midfield, spending around £50 million in total on Renato Sanchez and Vitinha. Big names? Well, not the biggest, that's for sure, but smart young signings. Players who are determined and still have a high ceiling that hasn't been met yet. It makes you wonder what the people making the decisions are really doing at United. It's like they're drunk on the job or something.
Money is not a consideration.
Ugh, he wasn't working at the time, but how could he? Outrage. Richard Arnold is part of a big club. Over at my club, Benfica, we've never had any controversies in our entire history, never had an embarrassing moment ever from anyone in an executive role, and we too are a big club. In fact, we are the biggest. And thanks to our sponsors for this video, Squarespace, that is now gospel on the internet. If it's on the internet, it's true, right? Thanks, Adrian. And yes, that's right. And if you don't believe it, then just head to www.benficaisabsolutelymassive.club and you can find out for yourself just how big our club is. Thanks to Squarespace, we were able to build an incredible website in just under an hour. As you can see here, video evidence of me doing it. We easily purchased a domain, a cool domain. It's .club as opposed to .com. Come on. And we moved our beautifully designed site over to it in no time. It's all encompassing. It makes it easy, even for a numbskull like me. And even though I'm a numbskull, even though I have a no brain, we still have an incredible about page. But the main thing we wanted to focus on was our blog. Yes, relatives of mine still refer to my YouTube channel as a blog. Hey Adrian, how's your blog going? So I figured, why not start my own, where all of you can comment on the great journalism I'm doing over there on my blog. Hey look, we already have a comment. And hey, it was incredibly easy to set up, par for the course with Squarespace. And we're not done there. Oh no, more features will be coming to Benfica is absolutely massive .club soon, thanks to Squarespace's all-in-one, easy-to-use platform, allowing us to add some statistics or analytics, potentially start a store with merchandise related to our fantastic website and business. I mean, we've already connected our social media accounts, or hell, we could even open a members area where we can all talk or collect donations for me. You know, to cover my 1 hour of setting up this website. I mean, the possibilities are endless for Benfica is absolutely massive.club thanks to Squarespace. I mean, I literally made this in an hour, guys. So just imagine what you could do to give your business, blog, or hobby an online presence. So fellas, head to squarespace.com for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch your own incredible site, go to squarespace.com/RabonaTV to save 10% of your first purchase of a website or domain. Thanks for checking out our great site, which will continue to grow. So stay tuned and good luck building yours. So let's talk about some of these transfer targets a bit, shall we? Martinez, Eriksson, and Malacia, I really don't have many gripes with any of those signings. I'm a big Eriksson fan. He has a ton to offer still, as he has shown at the tail end of his Inter career and while he was with Brentford. Martinez, he was great at Ajax. He has a relationship with Ten Hag already. Why not? Malacia, I heard great things about his time at Feyenoord. He's been involved with the Dutch national team. Clearly, Ten Hag and co know about him. It seems a decent bet. A good option to provide competition for Shaw, which Alex Telles wasn't really delivering on. As for the attack, it's already confirmed that 33-year-old Austrian striker Marko Arnautovic won't be going to Manchester United in what would have been one of the most confusing transfers of the summer. Yes, Manchester United were really in for Arnautovic for about 8 million euros until Bologna's sporting director Marco Di Vaio said that the Austrian is integral to their project, that he is, quote, priceless for us, and the next morning, United pulled out of the deal, saying they had been priced out. The optics of that are just, I mean, they look a bit silly when you compare this to what some of their rivals are doing in the market in regard to the attackers they are bringing in. City brought in Haaland, Liverpool brought in Darwin, Chelsea signed Sterling, Arsenal signed Gabriel Jesus, Spurs brought in Richarlison to add to Kane and Son already, and United were rejected in their attempt to sign Marko Arnautovic. Huh? One of these things is not like the other. Not to mention the controversy surrounding some of the slurs that Arnautovic has been punished for in the past, both with his national team and while playing in the Eredivisie, of which United supporters emailed the club expressing their worry about signing someone like that, which goes against the club's anti-racism policies, as noted by Laurie Whitwell of The Athletic. With Arnautovic, it's more baffling that a club like United find themselves pursuing this caliber of player, this profile of player, a guy who was 33, more so than if they had actually signed him. You know what I mean by that? It's weirder that a club that is trying to take strides forward is pursuing short-term solutions like this again. A club trying to get back to what they used to be simply cannot be looking to make signings like this. I mean, it's crazy to me that Manchester United in 2022 only pulled out of the Arnautovic deal because they were told that they simply cannot have him by Bologna. I mean, that stinks, doesn't it? Am I crazy? The optimism they would have had at the beginning of the summer, that being the supporters, the names that were mentioned, and suddenly United supporters are like the Anakin and Padme meme, man. We're trying for Arnautovic to help in the attack. But you aren't seriously trying to sign him, right? You're not seriously trying to sign him, right? And I mean, it's not the first time they have done this sort of short-term striker signing either. You know, Odion Ighalo, Falcao, Cavani, and Zlatan. The last two contributed, mostly in Zlatan's case, but neither are an answer to the long-term question mark in that position. Why are they always on the back foot in this position? Why always 30-plus-year-olds? Why not a player who can grow with the club? And why does this happen at the beginning of August when a competitive match has been played already? Why not earlier? Man City and Liverpool didn't rest on their laurels when it comes to locking in their transfer targets early, but I guess it is important to acknowledge, and some United supporters will disagree with this still, United just doesn't have that pull anymore. We'll get to that later in the video though. United's midfield has been an issue for a long time. It has been perhaps the most obvious issue in this Manchester United side in a while. People will argue about the defense being the main issue. Of course, Perhaps De Gea and his limitations with the ball at his feet or lapses in concentration, that's another issue. But the defense has been at the mercy of those in front of them, not only to control and organize, but to provide cover for the defense. I'm not a Harry Maguire apologist at all. He's been shocking at times, but it's fair to say that the midfield has barely helped an already struggling back line, because as you guys know, defending doesn't just start and finish with the back line. The McTominay apologists exist, however, the McSexuals, even though he hasn't passed the eye test for the most part. And when you couple that with his analytics, whew, if you're a fan of his, you won't want to look at these numbers from last season. Just look away now. And so following another shocking display, I mean, this is just not the level you want the starting midfielder of Manchester United to be at. But following the display against Brighton on Sunday, Ten Hag hopped on the phone the next morning to call a prospective midfield signing, that being Adrien Rabiot. Which, by the way, Juve have played these guys. If this happens, Juventus has played them like a fiddle once again. Pogba left United for free to Juve. Then Juve sold him back for a ridiculous fee. Then he leaves United for free back to Juve. Now they're selling a player who hasn't benefited them too greatly back to United. I mean, they're losing what little credibility they had left from their glory years. And of course, some will say, or try to argue, that they don't have any at this point already. Rabiot is an interesting case in that the first thing people think of when they think of Rabiot is his mom, because of the issues she has caused alongside her son. Saying Rabiot was a bit of a problem at PSG is an understatement. He tried forcing a move when he was 20 because of a lack of opportunities that he felt he should have had. He refused to be on the 2018 World Cup standby list because he thought he should be in the team. He was suspended in 2019 when he was late to a meeting, continued to beef with the club thereafter, was sent to the reserves, and eventually left on a free to Juve. Not to mention what happened at Euro 2020, by the way. Now, to be fair to Rabiot, and I had to cross-reference this with my friend Beppe, or just Juve on YouTube, who is a massive Juve supporter, he hasn't really had any off-field issues at Juve. Maybe because, as Beppe pointed out to me, he's on a massive contract at Juventus, and he actually receives regular playing time. Now, what he's done with that playing time, that's about as mixed as you can get. Would he be an upgrade in Manchester United's midfield? Yes. Again, a mix of the eye test and some analytics gives you a great idea of that, and when comparing their numbers, Rabiot does indeed seem as though he would be a step up from McTominay, but he wouldn't be the player to revolutionize their midfield. I mean, as Beppe confirmed, he has some high-profile mistakes in him, which is just what United need more of, right? And he tends to find his form late in the season, and that's at a club that he's quote-unquote settled in. But there's a broader picture here, and what's worrying is United's inability to get deals over the line for players that they seemingly want. Everything seems to be reactionary rather than proactive in the market with United. Hell, even signing Ronaldo was a reaction to the interest from City. The Rabiot links are a consequence of the De Jong failure. I mean, as of now, it's a failure at least. The Frenkie de Jong debacle was really embarrassing in my opinion. And I don't think the fact that a player turned down the club is embarrassing. That in isolation, I mean, that could happen to any club for a multitude of reasons. Whether it's down to the competition they're playing in or not playing in, whether they dislike the manager, don't want to live in a certain city, etc., etc. There isn't anything embarrassing about a player not wanting to go to a club. But the way United conducted themselves, still hanging on, trying to convince De Jong to join them when he said repeatedly he didn't want to join, that he wants to play in the Champions League, whispers that he perhaps didn't have a great relationship with Ten Hag previously, and that he wanted to stay and fight for a place at Barca. I don't know just how emphatic he was with this assertion, but from what we can glean from trusted sources, he didn't want United at all, and a few economic levers later, and suddenly Laporta is keen on keeping him. The fact is, the offer was made to Barca wanted to sell him at one point, and if Frenkie wanted to join United, he would have. As a general rule, when a player takes that much convincing, then perhaps he isn't the right player for you in the first place, as they're arriving with an air of skepticism right off the bat. Sure, once they arrive, something can click and the move can work out, but typically, a manager will want someone who is excited and motivated to represent the club. It just makes everything way easier. Another general rule to follow is to not put all of your eggs into one basket, as United have seemingly done with Frenkie de Jong. Because let's say that Frenkie is just trying to sort out all of his financial stuff that's going on at Barcelona, and that's what's taking so long. But regardless, why are all your eggs in one basket? After weeks and weeks of waiting around for him to either change his mind or get forced out of Barcelona somehow, back when talk of that was a thing, of course, United seemingly didn't have a plan B. Unless, of course, we're supposed to believe that Adrien Rabiot was always number 2 on their list and not just a marriage of convenience because he has a year left on his contract and Juve are happy to get rid of him due to his high wages, while United clearly need somebody. Could never be the case, right? It all smacks of, yet again, a lack of a contingency plan and further lengthy negotiations that oftentimes didn't go anywhere, which we got used to seeing while Woodward was handling transfers at United. But anyway, putting all their eggs in one basket, focusing solely on one player is a terrible idea. It's like investing all of your money into a single stock. If that stock happens to nosedive, you're screwed. I don't need to tell the Glazers this, they listed United on the stock exchange after all. United and their transfer council are an interesting group, and I'm not looking to excuse them at all, because they don't deserve any excuses. I mean, why can't they sign a good central midfielder? Why? Are they allergic? I mean, my God, some United supporters have actually had to go through trying to convince themselves that McFred is a good combo in the middle of the park, that they are a suitable duo to elevate Manchester United. Again, did you see these stats? Did you see him chasing shadows while Moises Caicedo was cooking for Brighton? This combo will not elevate you anywhere but further and further into a banter era. Who knows, maybe the United board see using Lisandro Martinez in the midfield as the way forward, with Varane played next to Maguire. Maybe that's it, and perhaps that could work out well, we'd have to see, but it still doesn't excuse how United have done business yet again. It's all very reactionary. Why is it that they labor so much in getting their first choice? Part of that could be, and I'm going to back them up for just a sec. Wait.
Let me tell you something! Wait.
Hang on. Not completely back them up. I know they don't deserve any backing here, but I do think that Arnold, Murto, etc., aren't helped in any way by how United have conducted themselves in the past, both in the transfer windows and on the pitch, because they go hand in hand in this case. Not to mention how the owners who have seemingly handcuffed those that work below them. Sure, the executives below them still get an incredible salary, while the dividends are paid out to top Glazer family members each year still. At times, there has been as much as 80 million in dividends paid out to the owners. Money that could be used for players if there was any interest in that, which clearly there isn't. So that is an area where I do feel for those in charge of running the football side of things, running recruitment, etc. I do think they want the club to do well, your Murtos and Arnolds of the world, but I don't believe that all of them are the best fit for their jobs. But regarding the owners, we'll get back to them later. United have allowed themselves to overpay in the past. This happens with a lot of big clubs, of course, though City and Liverpool still find some seemingly good deals now and then. Why? Because there is a draw to playing for them still. Whereas when you look at United in the last few years, it's absolute chaos at every level, even on the pitch, and their actions this summer have furthered that idea. So Murto, etc. have a tough job ahead of them in some ways. I acknowledge that. But clearly they have some learning to do from their rivals in a big way. I mean, a director of football that's at the level of Shiki or Michael Edwards would be a start. But that same reluctance they have to sign a central midfielder, they seemingly have had when it comes to this position at the club. Determined to promote people from within, the trusted Glazer guys, the favorites that have a lengthy past with United now, guys who know the club instead of guys who know the job. But I guess we gotta give Murto some time. He's only just begun. We'll see what happens in the rest of the window. We'll wait and see if these now annual Milinkovic-Savic rumors actually come to anything this time, or if they're yet another, hey, we're trying kind of leak from the club to appease supporters while they pursue the likes of Rabiot instead. By the way, Milinkovic-Savic is not a defensive midfielder for anyone who was hoping for that. He operates best further up the pitch, and his defensive numbers aren't anything to write home about. In fact, they're kind of poor because, well, he isn't a defensive midfielder and operates in a position that United have plenty of players for already. If we are to look at those quotes from Mourinho and Rangnick from the beginning of the video, those being about open heart surgery needed, then it certainly feels like the cycle will just continue for United. A couple signings here and there, nothing to move the needle, and not enough change behind the scenes. Why? Because the people behind the scenes seem more interested in profit and dividends as opposed to changing the product on the pitch. They're opting to stay the same, to just make cosmetic changes as mentioned by Rangnick, as opposed to bringing in people who operate on a football first level. Again, as he said, quote, "If this happens, if everybody has realized that this has to happen, and if people want to work together, then I still believe that it doesn't need to take 2 or 3 years to change those things." It's worked for and is working for other clubs because they want to change. At this point, United are willfully choosing to stay on this path instead of doing what other clubs chose to. Change course from what wasn't serving them anymore. And United's approach hasn't served them in a long, long time now. But of course it goes further than just those in a sporting director position or what have you, because where Leonardo failed at PSG, they still had an ambitious owner, an owner that, love them or hate them, they have a hunger for success. At any club, the buck stops with the owner. If the owner wanted to invest in a sporting project and bring in the best in the business to attract top talents and lead to success, then they would do so. But they seemingly don't have that intention at United. There isn't any interest. It feels like they are starting to move toward make or break time with the owners. As stocks are dropping, advertisers are walking away, Old Trafford is at a point where the work required for it cannot be overlooked, and we all know as soon as their wallets take a hit, they suddenly care about things. But if they secure some more money somehow, so long as they are making money, well, this wave of protests risks being just another blip in what is now reaching almost 2 decades of unrest under the Glazers. Like Rangnick said, cosmetic changes will happen, but the theater of dreams has been suffering from night terrors on the pitch and is desperately in need of open heart surgery. Thanks for watching this video, guys. If you enjoyed it, then be sure to subscribe and join the community here. But other than that, thanks for watching and take care. Ciao.